What's going on, everybody? It's Carmine from Barmine Tech, and we're going to be continuing the Make Your Own Game server off of Proxmox series. So today we're going to be talking about how to set up your own Minecraft server. So we're going to be using Crafty controller, which is something that we've done in the past, but we're going to be doing it a different way today. It was brought to my attention that installing it through like Docker or Casa OS really isn't the best option anymore, and that there's a Linux supported installer, which I don't recall at the time. I don't remember either it was like a lot of extra steps to do it or that just wasn't availability, but I could be completely wrong. But today we're going to be installing it on Linux just because I'm trying to use fewer resources than running on a Windows machine. So we're going to be using an Ubuntu server machine. We're going to be installing Crafty controller off of it, and we're going to be hosting our own Minecraft server off of that. So it's just going to be a few steps. That will be a nice quick tutorial how to set up a Minecraft server so you can share and play with all your friends. So that's enough of the talk, let's get right into it. So if you're not familiar, Crafty controller is pretty much a tool that gives you like a web portal management to deploy and create Minecraft servers as well as manage them. So like I said, we worked with it in the past, and what I really like about Crafty controller is the simplicity to spin up Minecraft servers, control them, and everything else that needs to go with it. You could see the player information, you could really do everything out of it, and it's a lot easier than trying to run the jar file out of like the command line on Linux. But we're going to talk more about that later. The first thing we're going to do is come over to install. We do have different options, but today we're going to be focusing on Linux. So we're just going to hit the download, which it's not really a download, just redirects you to the guide. And just to check the supported distros, you can just do Crafty compatibility. There's a wide group of the flavors of Linux that are supported. My preferred distro is Ubuntu, so I'm going to be working with that. But if you like Pop OS or CentOS maybe, or whatever you see on the list that you like, you could pick from that. But I'm going to be using 2204. So I pre-made the Linux box out just because it just takes quite a bit of time to build up the box. But just quickly, I'll show you. I gave it 12 gigs of RAM, 6 cores, and I only gave it a 75 gig hard drive. Now, however, if you're going to be using this to really host a Minecraft server off of, you're going to be playing with your friends or whatever, you probably want to give it minimum 150, 200 gigs just to be able to save everything. You might even want to size it up even more if you can, because it is going to be your game server rolling with it. You don't want to run out of space later on. Of course, you could always add to the disk if you need, but it's always better to do it up front. So if you plan on really running this game server, probably give it like minimum 200 gigs. Other than that, it's just the typical Ubuntu server install. It's just a normal install, nothing extra. If you have any issues or questions with that, I'll link a video and a card up to how to install Ubuntu server on Proxmox. So that'll be up in the corner over there if you want to check that out. I'll run through how to install and set up your Ubuntu server machine. Not going to do that in this video. We're just really going to focus on installing and setting up Crafty controller. So we're just going to log in through the console, do IPA, and then we're going to come over here and just grab the IP address. So it's .18. And then from there, I'm just going to open up a PuTTY terminal, and we're going to log in through SSH so we can start configuring Crafty controller. Okay, so we're going to come back over to this compatibility page, and I realized that I didn't mention it before, but of course I'll have the link below to this write-up in the guide in the description so you can follow along. We're going to come over to the installation section over here. We're just going to click on Linux. So this is going to walk through the steps of installing Crafty controller on Linux. So it's a pretty straightforward install, and what's nice is they actually made an automated install script, so it'll just go through and do everything for you for the most part. But if you don't want to use the script, you can of course come over here and do it step by step. We're going to be using the script because I prefer to make everything much more simple, so I'm just going to pop this out, and we're going to get the SSH terminal up, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I just have on the left my Linux box that I'm going to be running Crafty controller off of, and over here on the right is the write-up. So the first thing we need to do is just come over here and copy this command. So all we're doing over here is updating the repos, upgrading everything on the machine, and then we're also installing Git. And we need that because we need it for the install script. Since we're running this with sudo, we are going to need to put the password in, and this is just going to go through and update and do everything that's needed to upgrade the box. And then, like I said, it's just going to install Git. So I'm trying to give this a few minutes to run, and we'll be right back to run the next steps. So as the upgrade service runs, it's going to probably bring you to this window, so you can just hit tab so it gets to OK and hit enter so it'll continue. And that's pretty much going to wrap up with the upgrade and the install. So now you can see everything's all done. We have our normal command line back, so I'm just going to hit clear. And then from here, we're just going to come over to the one-line installer. We're just going to copy that. So all this is doing is cloning the GitHub repo for Crafty controller, and it's going to go over to the directory, and then it's going to run the install script. we're just going to paste that in, and we're going to start letting this run. If you are interested in checking it out, you can go over to the GitHub repo or on GitLab, and you could look through the repo, and then you could also look through the script if you want to ensure there's nothing going on. The script is being told to be used by the official Crafty controller site, so I'm not going to really worry about it too much. But if you want to go see what it's going to be doing, you can go check that out. Again, we're going to get one of these menus where it's going to ask where we want to restart. I'm just going to hit tab to get to OK. We're going to hit enter. We're going to let this continue to run. Now we're going to start getting into the menu over here. So I'm just going to pop this out a little bit so we get full screen. So you can just see over here it's doing Crafty Controller 4 for the installer. It's going to see what you want to do, and then over here it's just going to say, do you want to install the Ubuntu requirements? I'm going to put yes and hit enter. I'm going to let this continue to work, and it's just going to prompt you a couple of times for some of the stuff that it needs to install through the script. So when we get the next one, I'll be right back. Okay, and then after that runs, we're going to get redirected back over to this installer, and it's going to say, do you want to install Crafty this directory? Now, back in the write-up, it is pretty much recommended to do it that way. You can choose to switch it to a different directory. This is going to go over it in the manual install. Personally, I feel it's just easy to keep it default, because if something ever happens, everything ever breaks, you need to post on the support forums, it's probably going to be a lot easier to work that way. So I'm just going to click yes. So it's going to install to that directory, and then it says, do you want to fix the permission issue? I do, because it's going to be right into a new directory that it doesn't have permission, so it actually makes a user Crafty on the machine. It's going to be given the Crafty user permission to actually work with all the files and everything. That's at least what I'm assuming, but we're going to go like that. Now this one I didn't really see much info on, but I'm just going to do master. This is what I did on my install, and now it's going to go through and it's going to install everything needed for Crafty. So when this is all done, we'll be back again. So now over here it's saying, would you like to make a service file for Crafty? So if we come back to the guide and we scroll up, it has this little purple box and it says Crafty service files. So pretty much by adding the Crafty service file, you can make it so it's a system cuddle service. Instead of going through and having to run the Crafty script to start up the server, you can just do it through system cuddle. So this is honestly what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to minimize it, and it's just going to be a lot easier. So I'm going to hit yes. And then this should pretty much finish up the install, and you can see we're back over here. So now the only thing left to do, all I did was just drag everything back to the side, is we want to come over here and we want to set up for the service file. So we're going to do sudo system cuddle start Crafty, and of course you can copy this, and then it doesn't return anything, but that's okay, and we can just copy that, and it's going to do enable. This is going to enable the service, so Crafty's now going to be running off one of the default services on the machine, and it's going to enable it. So ideally, if the machine reboots or whatever, it should automatically restart the service. So what you could also do to ensure that it's running is do sudo system cuddle status Crafty, and you could see over here that it's running and everything looks good. If it doesn't give you the command line back, you just hit Q to get back out of that. But now we're all good, so Crafty should be running, and I'll show you how to access that. So the only thing you're going to need is your IP address. So I'm just going to come back over here. Mine is .18. So now that we have the IP address of the machine, we're just going to come over to a new tab. It's going to be https:// your IP address :8443. They're going to get a security warning. Now, if you don't come over to the security warning, it says it's reset or can't connect. Make sure you're using HTTPS. If you're not using it, it's not going to work. We're just going to click advanced, and we're going to accept the risk and continue. The default credentials are admin, and if we come back over to the write-up, it says for accessing the portal is a couple tabs over, but we're going to need to run a command on the box to get the default password, because it is set through the Crafty install. We're going to come over here and it says on the Linux distros you could do this. So we're just going to copy this password. We're going to come back. We're going to paste it in our box, and then you can see over here is the default credentials. So they do make it a long string of characters, which is fine because we're going to change this right away. So just copy that out. Come back over to your Crafty login. Paste it. We're not going to save it because we're going to change it. I'm going to skip the survey, and the first thing we're going to do is come over and change that password. So you can see over here is the admin user, and if we click on the lock, it's going to change the password. So I'm just going to set a new password that I can remember. We're going to click OK, and now the password's been changed, and I like to just test it out to make sure everything works. So I just log out, try my password, everything looks good, and now you can see over here we're at our dashboard for Crafty. So of course, if you're interested, you can continue to click through the guide. They explain everything really well, but pretty much we're going to cover everything right now as well. So this is the Crafty controller. This is the main dashboard that over here is going to show you your server stats as well as your servers that you are running. Over here on the left, you just have some of the simple tabs like your servers. There's some documentation, in-app docs, there's the Discord if you're interested. There's credits over here for the developers and people who assisted on the making Crafty controllers, so if you're interested you can check that out. But we're going to just come over here to servers, and we're going to build out our first new server with creating a server. So Crafty does give you the option of making Java or Bedrock servers. So I'm going to focus on Java because that's what I play with my friends. And then over here we can come down to server type. So you can do server or proxy. I'm not really sure what the proxy is, so I'm just going to stick with server. And then we have over here the different types of servers. So if you want to run a vanilla, paper, fabric, folia, forge, or purper. I never heard some of these. I know pretty much paper is really common, and so is forge. I believe that's how you can set up for mods. I'm not going to go over how to install mods because I'm not really sure how to do it on the server side. I will show you though how, if you want to install custom maps, we could do that. I'm going to work with a vanilla server because I just need something simple really quick. You can come over here and you can select your version of Minecraft. So 1.21.1 is the latest version, but if your friends and you are still playing on a different version, you can come through here and select this. I'm just going to leave it on the defaults. We're just going to name the server. I'm going to call it Bar Minecraft, and then over here is where you can actually allocate the amount of memory for the server, the Minecraft server, to use off of your main server. So keep in mind that if you only gave your Linux host 12 gigs of RAM, you can only give the Minecraft server 12 gigs of RAM. So I'm just going to bump this up to 4 really quick. And then really the only other option in creating the server over here is the port. So the default port is 25,565. You can run multiple servers off the Crafty controller, but you're going to need to change the port. So if you start running 2, 3, 4 servers, you can just increase the port by 1, and then I'll talk about adjusting that in the back end. Other than that, that's really it for creating the server. You can just come over here and click build server, and then over here you can see it got built out. So it's going to start importing it. It's going to pull all the packages needed to set up the server. One thing I do want to talk about is there are other options from Crafty controller for setting up a server. So you can import from a zip file. So if you have like a zip file of a backup of one of your servers, you can import it through here. Or you could also do an existing server through here as well. So you can still, if you have an existing world you and your friends are working on, you can still use it right through here. And there's also another option for the zip file for server import. So they are compatible with pre-existing servers not built out of Crafty controllers. So you do have that option. We're going to come back over to Bar Minecraft. Now on the dashboard it's a different view, so you can either come over here and you could hit play from here, or you can come onto your server and then you can get the logs. So I'm going to click start, and it's going to tell us we need to agree to the EULA, so I'm just going to click yes. It's the first time it's running, so it's just reminding us to make sure that we port forward it, so if we want people outside of our network to access it, they can. So all you would need to do is go into your router, and then you would set the port to go forwarded through to this box. So you would set the internal IP to your machine that's run the Crafty controller, and then you would set the port. Now if you're going to run multiple Minecraft servers, you're going to have to set a range of ports. So if you have, let's say 2 or 3, and you're just going up by 1, you would have to forward 25,566 and 567 as well to this machine so they can get through when they hit it. But that's a different thing, but that's just how we do it. It's simple, and that's how it is. Now the one thing you might see when you first run your server is this error, linkage error. This is because we didn't install the JDK on the Linux machine with the Crafty controller, which is fine. I'm going to show you how to fix that right now. So to solve this, all we're going to do is come over to Google and we're going to search latest JDK version. We're going to come over to Oracle, and you can see over here that there's 22. I didn't get 22 to work, so I'm just going to work with 21. And we're just going to come back over to the Linux box. We're just going to do sudo apt install open jdk tac 21 tac jdk. And I typed that wrong, so that's not going to work. Make sure you put the J, not the P, like I did. And then over here it's just going to ask you if you want to continue. And it's just going to install the JDK package. So it's just the Java development kit, and this is what Minecraft Java actually uses to run with. So there's been newer versions, so it could be that's what the Crafty's controller is set with by default. It just has an older version set with it, or whatever it is. So we're just going to install this really quick. I'm going to reboot the server, and then we'll be right back just so everything can apply. Okay, so I installed the JDK, I rebooted the server, and now we're just going to come back over here and we're going to start up the server. And now you can see over here that all the logs are going through. So like I said, for whatever reason, I tried testing it with JDK 22 and it didn't work, so I just used 21. So that'll work for now. This is just one of those steps that you need to add in to work with any Minecraft server normally. So now we can see over here that the server is being built out, it's preparing the world. So while this works, I'm just going to go over some of the other features in the server manager. So one, we get all the details on the server, the time zone, the resources it's being used, the players, you got the version, just a quick description, and the server type. So it is a Java server, and it tells us it's online. We have the terminal over here, so if you had to write any of the terminal commands, you could do it in there. We have the logs, which is the same thing showing out the terminal. Now what's nice about Crafty controllers, we can schedule automated tasks to run through the management, so instead of having to do like a cron job on Linux to restart it or whatever, you could do it through Crafty and it'll write a cron job for you. So you can just click new schedule, and pretty much there's different actions such as start server, restart server, shut down, backup, or custom. So probably the common ones you're going to want to use is restart the server and back it up. So you could set it to automatically restart at 4 a.m. every morning if you're interested, and back up at whatever time you might want. So it's pretty straightforward. You just select your service, you just name it. You could select if you want to do basic or cron. I'm probably just going to leave most of the default options. You can select how often you want it to do, and then the time that you want it to run at. So super simple way to run some basic management through the Crafty controller, which honestly I like that they have features like this set in place. Other than the automated tasks you could also do backups, which was something that was set that could be an automated task as well. They do have a default backup option in here, so we can come over here and we can just edit it to take a look if we want. It does keep it on the box, and this is the path that it is going to be using. So if you do want to back up your server, let's say to a network share or whatever, you can mount a network share to a certain directory, and then you can come in here and you can write your own backup job. And you could tell it to save it to, I don't know, mount/Minecraft backups or whatever it is. There's additional options such as how many backups you want to keep. You can compress them if you want. You can shut down the server while it's backed up. There's different options, so you could have it compress it. You can have it shut down the server during the backup. You can have it run commands before or after the backup. There's also some exclusions, and then you could just save it. So nice to have a little backup feature in case you do want to back up your server so you don't lose it. Over here we have files, so this is pretty much just the core Minecraft files that are running. So if you need to add anything or take anything out, it's simple, you could just do it right through here. For add-in files, I do recommend doing it through this portal, through the file uploader, or however you want to call it, the file management, because if you do it through like WinSCP through the Linux box, you're most likely going to run into permissions issues. So if you do it through this, it's going to help alleviate any permissions issues or anything that might break your server as you go through. Moving over, we just have config, which is pretty standard. You probably won't have to change anything after you do get this going, but if you wanted to scroll through, you can just take a look. If there is anything that you need to change, you could do that in here. Next we have player management, so this would be where you would just see all the active players on the server and any of your banned players. From there we have metrics, so we could just see how the server is running. And then there is webhooks, so if you are interested, you can come over here and you can make like a Discord webhook or Slack, Teams, Mattermost, whichever one, and you could have it send webhooks for different services. You could have it send messages through the webhook for different actions. So let's say the server stops, starts, crashed, it finishes the backup, whichever one. You could have it so it sends Discord messages through here to make life a lot easier to manage it. This was something that I actually used on my old Crafty controller, and you can see it's just nice because then you get simple Discord alerts saying that, hey, the server's up, the server's down, whatever it might be. But for the most part, those are pretty much the basic setup for Crafty controller. Now I'll just show you how to load into your Minecraft server for the first time. So over here, when it comes to actually getting into Minecraft, you might just need to select the different version you're playing on. So if you do choose to play on a different version, you can just come over here and click on the Java edition if that's what you're doing. And then through installations, you can come over here, click new installation, and grab whatever version you're looking to play on. So it is if you're hosting your server on a different version. I'm playing on the latest, so that's fine. So I'm just going to come over here and bring this back to latest, and we're going to play. I'm sure you give this a second to load up, and then I'll show you how to connect to your server. Okay, so now we're just loaded into Minecraft, and we're just going to go over connecting to it locally. Of course, if you're going to be using a domain, you could do it that way, but if you're going to be hosting your server at home and you're going to connect to it from home, it's probably easier to just do a local connection. So you could just do direct connection if we want, or you can actually save it. I'm just going to type in my IP address. So this is going to be the IP address of the actual Linux box. That's all we're going to have. So you can see over here we're joining the world, and it spawned me in, and it actually plays pretty well. I was messing with this last night on a test machine. So you can see we're over here, we're just playing, and I'm just going to pause this really quick. And we're just going to come back over to the server. So you can see over here, if I click the status, we can see over here my player management. I can kick, I can OP, or I can ban myself. We can see some more metrics. So you can see it's starting to spike up a little bit, and that's probably because we have somebody playing on it. And you can see over here in the logs, there's just some more info of what's going on. You can see it's prepared and spawn. That was from when it was actually building out the server. But you can see I joined, and that's all set. So pretty much that's the basics of setting up Crafty controller and building out the first Minecraft server. If you do want to add worlds like Skyblock or anything else, you can do that. It has to just get dragged into the files. I'll show you that really quick. Okay, so to add a custom map, like I just grabbed Skyblock over here. To do that, we're just going to come over to Files. We're going to right click. We're going to click Upload. I'm going to go over to my downloads, and I'm just going to grab that really quick. We're going to upload it as the zip. Now I'm going to do it through the portal, like I said, just so it has the right permissions. It's going to do everything as we need it. And over here, we can see we have our Skyblock zip. I'm going to right click on that. We're going to click Unzip. And then from here, we can just delete this Mac OS file. We're going to click Yes. So what we just need to do is come over here. We got to delete our old world file. So this is going to get rid of the existing world. We're going to rename this one. So we're going to call it world. So if you do want to do like a custom world, don't do it on an existing server. You probably want to build a new one out. And then other than that, we should be all set. So I think I actually had my server still running. So I probably just broke everything, but we're going to restart it. And we're going to give this a chance. Hopefully this should work. It looks like the server is starting up, but that would be how you do add the files. Just make sure you either have a fresh server or you turned it off. I'm going to see if I can connect into this and if it actually works. It looks like it is, so let's just give it a shot really quick. It's going to be the same idea. We're just going to do a direct connection, and we're going to join the server. Nothing changed for me because I just did it on the same server that we just built out. But if you're building out different servers, it's going to you're going to have to probably specify the port. But you can see over here, here we are, we're in Skyblock, the world worked out, and everything did work. So like I was saying, if we're we're doing multiple off the same IP, you would just have to put in the port, so it'd be just 25,566, I think it is. And that's how it would know to connect over to the different port, because that's the port that's listing it off of the Linux server. But that's Crafty controller. I know this video is a little bit longer, but I just wanted to explain all the stuff that goes into setting up Crafty controller, setting up your own Minecraft server, the management behind it, and all that stuff. So that's everything. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope you find it useful. And that's our continuing of the Proxmox game server, some of the stuff we're building out. I think we might try to do a 5M server next because that seems to be pretty popular lately. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. I'll have a link to the Discord server below. I'll have a link to all my gear in my home lab, so if you want to check out any of the gear I use and maybe get it too, you could do that. I do have an Instagram for the channel. It's going to be barmine_tech on Instagram if you want to check it out. I've pretty much just been posting the same reels that we see on the shorts if you've been seeing those. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.